What do you swear you saw but have no proof? When I was 10, we had a 14-year-old German Shepherd who was getting very sick. I was home alone momentarily as my mom went to the neighbors to pick up a book or something. Our German Shepherd came over, convinced me to walk outside with him, and started licking my hands, looked at me, and ran away jumping the fence, and he never came back. He was so loyal and good that to this day Noon believes me and thinks he was stolen because he would never leave. I'm almost certain he did that because he didn't want us to see him die and he wanted to go to the massive forest area and do his thing. I miss you, buddy. He went off to die alone. Dogs do that. We had a dog that we couldn't find as well one day. We have a pretty big garden. When we found her at last, she lay dead in a corner of the property on top of a place where we'd buried her mother and grandfather. Dogs are weird like that. That makes so much sense. Dogs have weird little I'm still a wolf instincts. I recently heard why squeak toys are fascinating to them. And my dog has a hiding spot in the far reaches of a wardrobe cabinet that she goes to whenever she's stressed, like if there's fireworks or she is ill. Thanks for sharing. A lot of people forget that dogs are den animals. Everyone is so against kennel training, but usually it becomes their safe spot. My buddy's dog regularly just goes to her kennel to lay down and sleep when the doors open. They love to have their spot. Kennels or crates are abused by so many owners as a punishment, but you're absolutely right. That should be their safe space and not a prison cell. I don't currently have one set up because I don't have a good spot for it, but in general my dog loves his crate. If he's not by my side, he's in his box, door open, and everything. He never resists me when I need to leave and close him in there, because he knows it's not a punishment, he is not in trouble. That's just his own little space, and it's where he goes when I'm not home. Cats do that too. We found my cat nestled away in the back of a basement closet one day. Fished him out and he was totally limp. Realized that he had eaten cherry pits. They contained cyanide if cracked open, and poisoned himself. Luckily we found him and rushed him to the vet and he was fine, but poor guy wanted to go die alone. My cat died last year. The last several days, the only place she wanted to be was under my bed, in a back corner where it was nearly impossible to reach her. I wasn't ready to let go, but looking back, she 100% knew it was her time. I had 4 other cats at the time, and their behavior the days before she passed was significantly different, and in many ways, heartbreaking as well. This is so heartbreaking, but he must have known his time was soon. Dogs know when it's their time. We had a dachshund with severe kidney disease. He wouldn't eat and could barely walk around, just basically sleeping all the time. Christmas Eve came around, and he suddenly was like a puppy again, running and jumping around and being super affectionate. He died the next morning, and it was like he wanted to give us one more good day to say goodbye. That last burst is a real thing, and not just with dogs. I was staying for a week at a guest house on some property up in the middle of nowhere, Washington State. I'm sitting on the porch early in the morning drinking a cup of coffee, and I see a young deer in the yard about 20 yards from me. So I just stay still and take it in. Then along comes this rabbit hopping in, and they notice each other. The rabbit hops up toward the deer, and the deer cautiously puts its nose toward the rabbit. The rabbit gets up on its hind legs, and they slowly inch their noses closer and closer to each other. Then they touch, and the deer hops straight up in the air. The rabbit runs in a full circle around the deer and then stops. Then they repeated the exact same thing. They did this like 3 times, then ran back into the woods together. This was before cell phones, and I'm glad it was. It was just something for me and me only, and I am grateful for it. Thumper and Bambi? Ever since I read Stand By Me as a kid, I've tried to keep solo wild animal encounters to myself. Just a moment, that's just for me. When I was a kid, I'd sometimes get up in the middle of the night and go downstairs to get a drink or snack. On the way, I had to pass by this dark hallway that led to my dad's office. I was always scared to look down that hallway at night because I had this fear that I was going to see a small child standing there. I have no idea where the thought came from, outside of my hyperactive imagination. Well, fast forward many years, and me and my wife and kids are staying in that house during a visit. My daughter is sleeping in my dad's office. As you may have already figured out, one night I'm heading down to get a snack. I look down that hallway as I pass by it, and what do I see? My child standing there. Scared the crap out of me. That is some sort of interstellar experience. Stay! Stay! Muffled screaming from beyond the 3rd dimension. I was stalked by a mountain lion when I was young. My family was ahead of me and I saw it in a tree watching me. I yelled forward to my parents and looked back and it was gone. I was under 10 at the time and am almost 40 now. I don't even know if it was real anymore. My dad and I were hiking once. I was 15 or 16, I believe. All of a sudden, every hair on the back of my neck stood at full attention, and I felt like I was going to throw up. I said, "Dad, I really think we should go back to the van." His reply still makes my skin crawl. He simply looked at me and said, "Me too." That scared me more than anything. Superman isn't supposed to be afraid. There was a news report the next day of a hiker being attacked by a mountain lion on the same trail we were on, just a little farther up from the parking area. We both have no doubt that was what we both subconsciously sensed. That there is a goddamned cornucopia on the fruit of the loom labels. I remember that too. Funny thing is the guy that designed the logo or something said he remembered that too and thought it was odd it wasn't there anymore. I've got a lot of those Mandela effect things, like Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father," instead of, "No, I am your father." It doesn't even sound right. "Luke, I am your father" is just a common misquote and became part of pop culture because it's what works in a vacuum when you want to reference that scene. But in the film, it would make no sense. The preceding lines are, "Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father." To which Luke replies, "He told me enough. He told me you killed him." It would be weird to follow that with anything other than, "No, I am your father." Back in 1995, I was sitting on the beach in Durban, South Africa, with a bunch of mates after a night out. The sun was just starting to come up, and a dolphin launched itself out of water. For less than a second, it was silhouetted in front of the rising sun, and then it was gone. Nobody else saw it, but it is an image that is burnt into my mind and will no doubt stay with me for the rest of my life. Certified Lisa Frank moment. Congrats. Two foxes ice skating on a frozen pond. My mom and brother saw it too. We watched for a good 10 minutes or more, sometimes on hind legs, sometimes not. But they were definitely playing together and enjoying sliding around. Foxes like to play. I've seen some repeatedly running up a small bank and then wriggling, rolling down it like kids, and another that stole a dog's squeaky toy and was throwing it around. My dog ran off, and she was very mice, the type who'd come back eventually, but not a second sooner than she wanted. Someone knocked on our door and told us to go up the street to the pond. So we did. My dog was running and chasing a deer in Tay Pond. After a moment, they switched and the deer chased my dog. It was super nuts and really cute, and of course I didn't have my camera. Pre-cell phone days. I once saw a cat walk up a street to a zebra crossing, stop, look for cars, cross, then walk down in the same direction on the other side of the road. Street smart cat. Many years ago I had a black cat that stopped at the zebra crossing, waited until the light went green for him, and only then started walking again. A coworker of mine saw him do that, and no one else was around. She was in the car, waiting at the red light for traffic. I saw a fox do something similar. It was late at night, and I was stood on my balcony looking down at the road. The fox walked up to the traffic lights and waited for them to turn green, then crossed over. The road was empty at that time, so it didn't really need to wait, but I respect the fact that it did wait for the green man. I like to believe the fox was a human in a past life that got hit by a car, so now it's extra cautious. Went jogging at 5 a.m., stopped to say a prayer at a statue in front of the church. There was an old lady praying too, so I stopped by her side, closed my eyes, and then I heard the old lady crying. So I opened my eyes to check, and holy shit, she was nowhere to be found. So I thought I'd imagined her or something and started jogging again only to hear something in the back. So I turned back and look, and there she is staring at me. And I ran as fast as I could. Most intense jog I'd ever had, though. This made me distinctly uncomfortable. Babysitting my brother's 1-year-old twins. Both have a couple of words, but not anything close to a sentence. Mum, dad, cow, hi, sort of thing. One of the kids grabbed my phone off the floor and I asked for it back. He said, "Would you like your phone back pretty perfectly?" I said, "Yes, please," and he handed it me. No one believes me. I can remember my early childhood, like being in diapers still. Remember my crib and stuff. I remember being able to understand what people were saying but not being able to talk other than the usual mumblings of a kid that age. We often encounter things that are impossible to explain or prove. Perhaps that's the magic of life, in those moments that belong only to us. It doesn't matter if there's evidence. What matters is that they are real to us. What moments are you ready to keep in your memory forever? Share your experiences in the comments, and maybe we'll discover even more stories that will warm our hearts or make us think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you in the next video.